Members, it's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. Today, we have just one paper for discussion. Before this meeting, the government submitted an information paper, ECI 2023-24, number 12, for circulation among members. That paper sets out the changes in the size of directorate establishment approved since 2002 and the implication of today's proposal for directorate establishment. Yesterday, the government also released a new paper, that's ECI 2023-24, number 13. That paper contains extra information on the request of this subcommittee, apart from changes to the establishment. That paper also sets out the figures, that is, reflecting the changes in the establishment over the last 5 years. In the past, we did not have data on posts that lapsed, but now in Annex 5, you will see the changes in such time-limited posts. That will help members keep track of the numbers. I don't propose to discuss that paper here, but we can see if there's a need to follow up that item later. A reminder to members, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in the item for discussion today, please disclose the nature of such interest before you speak in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. I also draw members' attention to Rule 84 of the ROP, which governs voting when a direct pecuniary interest is involved. The item for discussion today is 23-24, number 17. This is from the Department of Justice. This is the proposed creation of a permanent post of Deputy Principal Government Counsel at DL2 and a time-limited supernumerary post of Assistant Principal Government Counsel at DL1, or DL1 equivalent of non-civil service position for a period of 5 years in the Department of Justice with immediate effect upon approval of the Finance Committee to assist in the work on the International Organization for Mediation Preparatory Office and the establishment and future operation of the International Organization for Mediation, and to implement the policy initiative of setting up a dedicated office and an expert group within 2024 to take forward the establishment of the Hong Kong International Legal Talent Training Academy. On the 26th of February, the government consulted the panel on the administration of justice and legal services. Joining us for the meeting today to take questions are Mr. Horace Cheung, the Deputy Secretary for Justice, Dr. James Ding, Law Officer, International Law, also from the DOJ, Ms. Shirley Wong, Deputy Principal Government Counsel, Treaties and Law, Ms. Phoenix Tse, Senior Government Counsel from the DOJ, and Ms. Jacqueline Lai, Senior Executive Officer, International Law from the DOJ. Mr. Martin Liao is not here. He's not a member of the Establishment Subcommittee, so on his behalf, I will report the gist of the panel discussion. At a meeting on the 26th of February 2024, the panel on the administration of justice and legal services discussed the proposal to create a permanent position of a Deputy Principal Government Counsel in the International Law Division of the DOJ and to create a time-limited supernumerary post of Assistant Principal Government Counsel for 5 years from 2024 to 25 to 2028 to 29. Members noted that these two posts were to be tasked with undertaking the necessary legal work and general managerial duties about the IOMED's preparatory office and to take forward the policy initiative about setting up a dedicated office and expert committee within 2024 to promote the establishment of the Hong Kong International Legal Talent Training Academy. Members agree that these posts would help raise Hong Kong's international profile as the global city of mediation and also better leverage Hong Kong's role as a training center of foreign-related legal talent for our country. The government addressed members' concerns and questions at that meeting. The AJLSP supported the submission of the proposal to the ESC for consideration. Mr. Horace Cheung. please walk us through the paper. Thank you, Chairman. I thank members for joining today's meeting. This is about the proposal from the DOJ to create 2 posts. First, to create a Deputy Principal Government Counsel at DL2, and also a time-limited supernumerary post of Assistant Principal Government Counsel at DL1 or DL1 equivalent non-civil service position for a period of 5 years. Now, for the DPGC, this post will undertake work related to the necessary legal work and general managerial work in relation to the IOMED Preparatory Office. This post will also work on the future work of the IOMED to be established. With the staunch support of the central authorities, the IOMED Preparatory Office was set up in early 2023 in Hong Kong. The IOMED Preparatory Office took part in the negotiations for the IOMED Convention. The negotiating parties agreed that after the IOMED is established, China would be the host country and the headquarters would be in the HKSAR. The negotiations are proceeding in an orderly way. Once the IOMED Convention is agreed upon and the IOMED is set up, the IOMED headquarters will be set up in Hong Kong. So in relation to the work about the IOMED headquarters and the work, we need manpower to undertake the work. Setting up the IOMED will entail a large amount of work, complex work that is, and this involves supporting the IOMED's office to ensure smooth operation, the signing of the IOMED Convention. The work also involves ensuring that the preparatory office can transition into the secretariat of the future IOMED. The post will also have to ensure the long-term smooth operation of the future IOMED. The DOJ has to provide continuous manpower support for the current preparatory office and the future IOMED headquarters. That's why we propose creating this Deputy Principal Government Counsel in the International Law Division of the DOJ. And then we also propose creating a time-limited APGC post for 5 years. Now, for the APGC post, we work on the establishment of an expert committee and the dedicated office to take forward the establishment of the International Legal Training Academy. Now, for this new policy initiative, we need to create a new directorate post to advise on and supervise the work to ensure that we can have people undertake the work about the International Legal Training Academy. The 2023 policy address proposes setting up a dedicated office and expert committee to take forward the work about setting up the Hong Kong International Legal Training Academy. From time to time, there will be practical legal courses, seminars, and international exchanges. This will foster the exchange of talent along the Belt and Road. The academy will train up talent well-versed in international law, civil law, common law, and our country's legal system. International politics and economy is getting more complex. We need people with international perspectives and well-versed in foreign-related legal services. Our country is pursuing high-quality opening up and development. There's keen demand from our country for people well-versed in foreign-related legal services. There will be officials and judges taking part in Belt and Road-related work. They need a knowledge of international law. Mainland authorities and business sectors agree that Hong Kong has a well-recognized common law system. Hong Kong also has experienced legal talent. So they support a greater effort on the part of Hong Kong to contribute to the training of foreign-related legal talent in Hong Kong. We also need to foster exchanges and mutual learning in greater depth and breadth between the legal practitioners in Hong Kong and their peers, as well as other jurists and academics in the legal field elsewhere, so that we can pursue high quality, high value added development. And that's how Hong Kong can better integrate into national development. To take forward the work, within 2024, the DOJ will set up a dedicated office and expert committee within 2024 to prepare for the setup of the International Legal Talent Training Academy. The office will work on long-term plans, such as identifying a site for the permanent office of the training academy. The office will also plan for the manpower needs of the academy. These two posts are important for the DOJ's future work, and there's a pressing need to create the posts so that we have the manpower to support the work, to set up the IOMED headquarters, and also to set up the International Legal Training Academy. That's all from me. Thank you. 10 members are waiting to speak. I'll read out their names. Mr. Tony Tse, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Mr. Stephen Ho, Mr. Lee, Michael Lee, Mr. Tang Fei, Mr. Robert Lee, Ms. Carmen Khan, Ms. Doreen Kong, Mr. Yu Pak Perry Yu, and Mr. Brave Chen. 5 minutes for each member. Mr. Tony Tse. I support the establishment of the IOMED and the Academy. That can help raise our profile and cement our status as an international legal and dispute resolution services center. And we can also train more legal talent. Chairman, I want to find out about something. The DSJ just told us there's a time-limited post under the proposal. That post will work on the work about the academy. There will be a physical office for the academy. We have law schools in Hong Kong too. I know the future academy will have a different focus from our existing law schools. Our law schools focus on local students, whereas this academy will be more global facing. Has the government explored using the existing resources of the law schools we already have? Or are we going to save resources by setting up a new legal talent training academy? And for these two posts, will there be open recruitment, or will the posts be filled by internal promotion? And why do we need lawyers for these two posts? Now, for preparations, coordination, executive support, administration, you don't need a lawyer. Even non-lawyers can take the jobs. Can the government tell us more? 3 questions for the DSJ. Thank you. Now, for the dedicated office to work on the academy, that office will work on the future training that will be offered. Paragraph 25 of the paper discusses the future academy. The academy will be different from existing law schools. Law schools at universities will focus on legal theories and academic subjects, but the future academy will focus on legal practice and procedures. So the academy will be more practice-based. This dedicated office will certainly work with other universities or other academic institutions to achieve synergy. As the academy looks at the programs to be offered, we need this dedicated office so that we will have officers who will be able to brief LegCo on the detailed plans of the future training. Now, on why do we need lawyers and about open recruitment, that's a great question. Now, for the post about the academy, we will consider open recruitment. So for the APGC, if there are suitable candidates, we will consider open recruitment. The member made a good point. You don't necessarily need a lawyer to work on program development or preparation. The suitable candidate can be a lawyer, but not necessarily a lawyer. We just want to find the best candidate to work on the preparations for the training academy.
Thank you, Chairman. In this study, I'd like to look at the possibility of using existing university resources. There are benefits. There are also other facilities. Expansion of university premises may be better. They have all the equipment and facilities, or else you are going to use even more resources to set up a new academy. DSJ, probably you can expand on your purpose, where to set up the academy. Next, Dr. Lo Wai-kwok. Thank you, Chairman. In principle, I also support the DOJ's proposal. That is to have one permanent post and one time-limited supernumerary position. For the permanent position, Deputy Principal Government Counsel, DPGC, the position will be responsible for the Mediation Preparatory Office. The headquarters of the IOMED will be set up in Hong Kong. The Central People's Government supports this, and this is the result of the efforts of the CPG. This will be a boost in the arm to the Hong Kong community. Previously, the Finance Committee also approved using the old Wan Chai police station to set up the IOMED headquarters. It's of great historical value, so this is indeed good. Of course, we need manpower to take forward the initiative, so the permanent post of DPGC is necessary. On the overall establishment, is it already carved in stone? If we have such an establishment, can you give us more details? If not, if need be, do you need even more directory positions? You may come back to the council to ask for even more positions. Next, in relation to the academy, it's worth our support as well. For the supernumerary position, the post holder will be responsible for laying the groundwork of the academy. The scale establishment of the academy, do you have any provisional thoughts that you can share with us, DSJ? Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to ask Dr. James Deng to take these questions. Dr. Deng? Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Dr. Lo. In relation to the establishment, we will set up a new team led by the DPGC to support IOMED. Apart from the DPGC, we will also have other colleagues to render assistance. We need more than one directorate officer to work on this initiative. We also have other non-directorate support to support the DPGC position. We will also redeploy existing resources to support the DPGC to help with the work of the IOMED. At present, we consider sufficient, but in the future, when more resources are needed, we may come back to the Council if we need more manpower. But at this stage, we think we can cope with the creation of the DPGC position as well as the non-directorate positions. The second question concerning the supernumerary position regarding the arrangements and so on, as the DSJ mentioned, there will be further planning of the dedicated office preparing for the setup of the academy. We will also set up an expert committee to steer this initiative. We will canvass the experts for their views. Like the DSJ said, when we have more concrete details, we'll come back to the Council and report to members. I have a follow-up. The Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy, well, I think you should consider collaborating with local universities. This may bring us a win-win situation. Chairman, I'd like to add a little bit. Regarding the IOMED, it's an intergovernmental organization. When it is set up in Hong Kong, the Secretariat will not allow Hong Kong to take up all the work. As it is an international organization, there is a limit on the staffers. It is not an organization only in Hong Kong. So when we send officers to work in IOMED in Hong Kong, this is actually a good opportunity for Hong Kong legal talents, together with the other courts in The Hague, for example. This is actually a good opportunity. But this will not be only taken forward by the DOJ. Other parties will also play a part. Mr. Stephen Ho, I'd like to commend the DSJ. You took part in another event yesterday. Just now you also answered Dr. Low. I understand whether for IOMED or the Academy, they are international organizations. But the paper is silent on additional manpower from outside Hong Kong. So right now we have the proposal of 1 + 1 and 2 + 1, totaling 5. The paper mentions there is no permanent site. The IOMED will only be set up in 2025. For the Academy, you are only going to borrow a place. For example, you will rent a lecture room to have courses, but in the long run, you lack a permanent site. You may be able to rent a lecture theater from a local university, but I think you need to give an account to the AJLSP. You started work in 2023 and 3 councils were seconded to handle part of the work. If I have started working on something, I do want to continue the work on that front. So can these position holders hand over the work to somebody else? DSJ, in relation to the scale and establishment, I'd like to say the IOMED is founded on the basis of a convention. Different member states are still discussing the convention. The conclusion of the convention will take place probably next year. By then, we will have more specifics to tell members. I thank Mr. Stephen Ho and other members for mentioning the resources. That is, we need to make good use of the good resources we have with local universities. We'll take into account these points. Regarding the next question, I'll ask Dr. James Deng to give you more information. 3 counsels are seconded to the IOMED Preparatory Office. If everything is smooth, upon the setup of the IOMED, the office will be converted into a secretariat, and there will not be any office in 2025. There will be different staffers from different member states. At this stage, we don't have any concrete information, but in any event, even if there is no secondment arrangement by then, these councils can continue to support the work of the IOMED, but then they will be back to the DOJ. There will be publicity as well as other administrative initiatives, but then they can also work in the DOJ to work on these fronts. Thank you. 2 questions in paragraph 16. You mentioned there will be 2 permanent SGC positions and 1 permanent personal secretary, 1 post. Well, I think they were meant to replace the 3 councils' positions. As you haven't yet reached any agreement, are the positions you are asking for the creation, the basic requirements, which means you will come back to the council to propose even more creation of positions? Regarding how many people will work in the office, it's not the Hong Kong SAR government who can make a decision. If there are opportunities for local legal officers or talents to take part in this initiative, that is indeed good, but that is still subject to the discussion of different parties. Mr. Stephen Ho mentioned paragraph 16, that is the 2+1. When the 3 seconded government councils leave the office, they will be replaced by the 2 permanent SGC and 1 personal secretary 1. Well, as we can expect, the work will be very busy, and there will also be very complex legal issues in the future. There will also be local legislative amendments, as we can expect. For example, there are diplomatic immunity, for example, and they also require local legislation to tie in with them. So that requires the participation of local officers. Apart from the DPGC to handle the IOMED work, the 2 senior government counsel and 1 PS1 will also help the DPGC throughout the year. That is the transitional period to help with the very busy portfolio of the DPGC. But we will redeploy existing resources, and we don't need to come back to the council to ask for additional resources. In principle, I support the proposal. I'd like to clarify some issues. Members asked about the manpower arrangements. It depends on who is going to pay. There can be as many positions if we don't have to pay. Will the Hong Kong government need to bear the entire cost of the initiative, or there will be different international organizations bearing the cost together? While the convention is still being negotiated, but the costs are definitely to be borne by the Hong Kong government. For example, regarding the secondment of government councils, it is the Hong Kong government that will bear the cost. In the future, will there be secondment arrangement, or will the IOMED engage somebody else? If there will be secondment arrangements from member states or participating states, they will be responsible for bearing the costs. But we need to wait until the conclusion of the convention before we have more details. Thank you.
Mr. Michael Lee. It's a rare opportunity for our people to be able to work at the future IOMED headquarters. This is also an opportunity from our country for Hong Kong. The host country for the future IOMED will be China, our country. The convention is still being negotiated. So who will be the ultimate decision maker? There are decisions to be made over manpower deployment. Will the future mediation services come with a fee? How will the future IOMED break even? There's also an organization in The Hague. So what are the respective roles for The Hague and for our future IOMED? Are there opportunities for young professionals in Hong Kong that will arise from the future IOMED? Deputy Secretary for Justice. The IOMED will be an international intergovernmental body. Interested state parties can make a decision to join the convention. It's up to individual states. The host country will be our country. During the negotiations, the wishes of each interested party matter. So no single state has a bigger say. Now, on the fees to be charged by the future IOMED and the kind of cases that will come before the IOMED, the same questions were raised at the panel level. Members wondered whether the cases have to be private cases or cases between states only. These points will be sorted out by agreement between member states. Our country does not make all the decisions. It depends on the discussions of the state parties that will join the convention. The role of the future IOMED will depend on what member states agree on in the future convention. Now, there are two bodies in The Hague, the Permanent Court of Arbitration and also another institution at The Hague. The IOMED will play a different role. Now, the International Court of Justice will be a law court adjudicating cases. The Permanent Court of Arbitration will focus on arbitration. Our future IOMED focuses on the third option, mediation. So whether a case will go to a court of law or to arbitration or to mediation, that will be up to the parties in the case to decide. There are different ways to settle a case. So there will be no competition because we are talking about three different streams, a law court, arbitration, and mediation. Chairman, mediation is gaining traction internationally. People in businesses don't want to go to a court of law all the time, so mediation is preferred. Once the IOMED is set up, when someone in Hong Kong wants to go to the IOMED, will we need approval from the host country or other state parties before the case can reach the IOMED? Can we also let people from mainland universities take part in the work of the IOMED? The future operation of the IOMED and the protocol will be subject to the agreement between state parties. So the cases that the IOMED will deal with, the kind of people that can take part in the IOMED. That will depend on the future convention that will set out the protocol. Mr. Tang Fei, 2 questions. I support the establishment of the post to support the preparations for the IOMED, and also the other post to take forward the work about the academy, because that will leverage Hong Kong's strength to deliver what our country needs. That's where Hong Kong can contribute to our country. The rule of law is a great asset Hong Kong has, and we need to promote that. The IOMED will depend on a convention to be signed between governments. The headquarters will probably be in Hong Kong. I'm thinking the future mediation may involve international law that will involve territorial waters, etc. Just then a member mentioned the Court of Arbitration in The Hague. But here we're talking about mediation instead of taking someone to court. The use of mediation for dispute between states is a novel idea. The future IOMED convention will be an agreement between states, so this will be public law instead of private law. If that's indeed the case, that will massively raise Hong Kong's profile. So, can the government elaborate on this point for me? And is there a link between the IOMED and the academy? I see the government putting these 2 institutions together side by side, even in the policy address. I've heard that the IOMED convention covers the establishment of the International Legal Training Academy. So maybe the academy is simply there to provide more talent, or is there a requirement under the IOMED convention to create the academy? Paragraph 23, item B. Subject to the actual and operational needs of the participant. So for this academy, we're targeting Hong Kong's local talent. We're building up the capacity of local legal talent. Or will the academy be a place for our countries to get a bigger say in legal affairs, say along the Belt and Road? Are we trying to train up people for our country? So what kind of people are we trying to recruit as people to be trained for the academy? DSJ. The mediation happens between countries, so that will involve public law and international law. The origin of the IOMED has to do with the concept of resolving dispute between states. Mediation is a new and emerging trend. Mediation helps parties sort out differences under relatively amiable circumstances or amicable circumstances. And I agree with Mr. Tang that if we can have the IOMED headquarters in Hong Kong, an institution that can resolve disputes between countries, that will raise Hong Kong's profile. The member is right on that. Now, on the link between the IOMED and the academy, the 2 institutions are not linked with each other. It's just that these 2 institutions happen to be priorities for the DOJ at the same time. there's room for synergy between the academy and the IOMED. We want to train international legal talent. Resolving disputes through mediation between states is one way to train legal talent, so we will work on that too. Now, on who we will train at the academy, we will train not just local legal talent. There are mainland legal professionals in foreign-related legal services. There are also mainland judges. When people in our country need to work on foreign-related legal matters, we want them to be trained at the future academy. If we achieve good results at the academy, we will promote the training at the academy among Belt and Road countries, so that we provide training on international law for people from the Belt and Road. That works for people from the Belt and Road countries. That's also vital for Hong Kong as a center of legal services. Chairman, one comment. The DSJ made a good point. If we can put the headquarters of the IOMED in Hong Kong, I suggest putting up a banner with China that comes with Chinese characteristics. We need to emphasize the importance of harmony. Mr. Robert Lee. The paper has set out the justifications for the creation of the two posts. I support the proposal. I have two follow-up questions. First, about bringing the headquarters of the future IOMED to Hong Kong. So how much uncertainty are we looking at? Barring calamities, we bring the IOMED headquarters in Hong Kong. Will the headquarters be here to stay? Or will there be moving parts such that the headquarters will be relocated elsewhere in a few years' time? So how much uncertainty are we looking at? Has the government given thought to making the DPGC a time-limited post as well? Can we review the post a few years from now? The proposal about the IOMED is a new proposal after all. Has the government considered this option? DSJ. I will take the first question. Dr. James Deng can take the second question. Paragraph 9 of the paper. During the negotiations early this year, the negotiating parties agreed that once the IOMED is set up, China will be the host country. The headquarters will be in the HKSAR. Negotiations are still going on for the convention. Many things need to be sorted out. But the host country and the location of the location have been agreed upon between negotiating parties. So that's finalized. That's why there's an urgent need to take forward the work. That's why we put in an urgent proposal about making the old Wan Chai police station the site of the headquarters. The reason is that the site has been agreed on. In the next couple of years, we need to deliver on the work. There's urgency because something is already finalized. Now, on the second point, Dr. James Deng can tell us more about that. Now, on whether we can make the DPGC a time-limited post, a decision has been made on making Hong Kong the location of the headquarters. Paragraphs 10 to 13 say that There is ongoing work for the IOMED headquarters. There will be legislation, there will be support for the IOMED headquarters as cases are being dealt with. That's ongoing work. That explains why we're not proposing a time-limited post, we're proposing a permanent post instead.
Any follow-up? No, no follow-up. I support it. Next member, Ms. Carmen Khan. Thank you, Chairman. I'm all for the creation of the two positions. First of all, I thank the Central People's Government members expressed their views and also spoke on the importance during the two sessions. It mentioned this year is the key time period to implement the initiatives in the 20th National Congress report. That is to foster or to develop Hong Kong into an international legal and dispute resolution services center. If we have a dedicated team and an office, this will be an important step in Hong Kong. Paragraphs 7 to 9 settle very clearly that the IOMED headquarters will be in Hong Kong. That's exactly why I thank Central People's Government. They can choose to set up the headquarters in Beijing, Shenzhen, or other areas. But the host country is China. But then after discussion and after obtaining the support of the country, the IOMED headquarters will be located in the Hong Kong SAR of China. I have questions. In paragraph 14, for the permanent position, we need a position at DL2 that is more senior than the existing position, as more negotiations are expected to take place. Does it mean that after secondment arrangements, the D1 position will continue to stay in the DOJ, and then we need to create one more permanent position of DL2? There are 2 senior government counsel and 1 PS1 to support the DPGC. I'd like to confirm this. Regarding these 2 positions, that is legal talents or the development of the rule of law in China. In paragraph 22, we can see that it will be a national capacity building center for foreign-related rule of law personnel. I can clearly see the job specifications, but what about the requirements on the personnel? That is whether the personnel can maintain effective communication with China or other overseas jurisdictions. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Carmen Khan. Regarding the setup of the IOMED, we need a more senior officer to steer the work. In paragraph 13 of the papers, it sets out, especially in this year, we need to convert the IOMED Preparatory Office into IOMED proper. That entails the work that we need to do, and the work will be more complex than the existing work. As you can see in paragraph 13, the conclusion of the IOMED convention will be completed in late 2024 or early 2025. There will be more complicated legal issues as well as more interactive discussions among the participating states. There will also be extensive drafting work on the rules or regulations or local legislative amendments. These are complex issues. That's exactly why we need an officer pitched in DL2. After the setup of the IOMED, There are duties that we can already foresee. For example, there are large-scale publicity events, including the signing ceremony of the convention, which is very important. There are also duties in relation to the operation of the headquarters. That's why we need to create DPGC position. 2 senior government counsel and 1 personal secretary. 1 will support the work of the DPGC. Regarding the second question about the academy, you're right. As I mentioned, we need to identify a suitable officer. Is a lawyer the best choice? Probably the personnel or the person will need to have other strengths or qualifications. He or she may not necessarily be a lawyer. That's why we'll also consider any other persons who are not lawyers. So we'll cast a wider net to cover more possibilities. Next member, Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. For sure, I support this proposal. I have 2 questions, one about the training academy. Just now, members also asked about the positioning and the distribution of work. I'd like to ask the DSJ, have you talked to the local law schools? That is in relation to the positioning and the distribution of work. There are time-limited posts to be created to work in the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy. These time-limited positions will be created for a period of 5 years. What is your take on the continuity in this regard? Of course, the setup of the IOMED is good. In Asia, there are also other international mediation centers, but they may not be as large-scale as the one we will have in Hong Kong. If we can set up a center that is the best, that will be the aspiration of most Hong Kong people. On identifying talent, is that not easy? Honestly, if you ask me about the remuneration, I don't think it is very attractive. It's not unattractive, but it's not attractive either. We may target multinational corporations, the legal advisors working therein. It may be difficult to look for these talents. There are also senior government counsel working in this office. They may need to be well up in international law. Is it actually difficult to look for these talents, such as the general counsel of MNCs? Is it actually difficult, not easy to look for such talents? Thank you. Regarding the positioning and the distribution of work, they are important. The Chief Executive announced in the policy address that we will do this in Hong Kong. Honestly, there have been many university personnel who have been in touch with me talking about this. We talked about room for cooperation. Many prestigious universities in Hong Kong said that they would like to chip in, they'd like to make contributions as well. Regarding future collaboration between the academy and other law schools in Hong Kong, it depends on the establishment of the dedicated office. It will be liaising with local universities. So it's one of the duties of the dedicated office. It will have to discuss with local universities and assess the level of participation. I believe there will be collaboration with universities in order to achieve synergy regarding the continuity of the positions for a period of 5 years. In relation to positioning work the academy will need to achieve, that requires planning. Upon the setup of the academy, what is the establishment required, the manpower required, manpower resources. If we have the positions, the time-limited positions for a period of 5 years, we'll come back to the logical to seek member support and give you more information. We'll do so in the future. Ms. Doreen Kong also mentioned the choice of talents. The manpower in IOMED and the academy are different. There are different people working in these organizations or bodies. In the IOMED, the manpower will need to be well up in the areas not only in Hong Kong but also overseas as well as in our motherland. As I mentioned just now, the IOMED has a standing comparable to the International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. They are on the same par. Global talents will also partake in the work in these bodies. Different states will also send talents to these international intergovernmental organizations. Whether there are disputes between states and individuals or disputes between states, there will be global legal talents partaking in this in this work. And this will also raise the profile of Hong Kong, and that is exactly why I say so. Mr. Perry Yu, thank you, Chairman. The IOMED is the first international intergovernmental organization in Hong Kong dealing with the disputes in such a manner. It will also enhance our standing as the International Legal and Dispute Resolution Services Center in the Asia-Pacific region. It will bolster our soft power as an important policy. We already have the hardware, that is, we have the location, but in the long run, we do need manpower to make this happen. For the creation of permanent post of DPGC, this is reasonable in my opinion. There is ongoing work. In relation to the setup of the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy, of course I support it. I support grooming more legal talents in Hong Kong. They should be equipped with global vision, so that they will be well prepared to work in this international intergovernmental organization. This NCS position will be created for a period of 5 years. I'd like to know more about this position. Have you got in touch with local universities in relation to future collaboration opportunities? The paper mentioned identifying a permanent site. Do we really need a permanent site, such as the Civil Service Academy? There's a structure, there's a building, or probably some universities may be willing to lend a lecture theater or a building for the IOMED. Will it be self-financing? Will it be a public organization? And I'd like to seek clarifications from the DSJ. Thank you.
Dr. James Deng, please. Thank you. on working with other universities. The future dedicated office will plan the future academy. There will be coordination. There will be engagement between the future office and the universities. But the office has to be set up first. We need to put people in the office. Those people will then be able to talk to other stakeholders on the long-term plans, such as those mentioned by the member. We are aware of those points, and we will consider the points raised by the member. Chairman, on Mr. Periyu's second point, on the need for a permanent site, Mr. Periyu made a good point. We have to take it one step at a time. In Hong Kong, it's hard to find a permanent site for any facility. Land is at a premium in Hong Kong after all. So in the early days of the academy, we may not have a permanent site. So we will look at other options. For example, using the DOJ's site or finding a site at the other tertiary institutions, we will consider that. Now, over time, we will train not just local talent. We will train mainland legal talent, given the mainland's keen demand for foreign-related legal talent. The mainland wants Hong Kong to provide such a training academy. The policy address proposed setting up this academy. After that was reported, mainland authorities expressed keen interest in taking part in the training to be provided in Hong Kong. The mainland wants to work with Hong Kong. We see strong demand from the mainland for such training. The Belt and Road is our country's strategy. When the moment is ripe, we will consider whether we will need a permanent site for the training academy. Now, on the financing of the academy, whether the academy will be on a self-financing basis, we don't have anything final yet. This remains to be decided. The academy may well become very popular. If that's the case, the academy may be able to be run on a self-financing basis. Mr. Brave Chen. Thank you. Members agree on the broad direction of this proposal. There are wars going on. There are disputes internationally. Mediation is a growing trend for peace-loving countries. We are also grateful to our country for its staunch support so that we can develop and cement our status as a legal hub. We want to take our dispute resolution services global. We want to develop into a global center for legal services. The DSJ has visited different places overseas to promote our status as a legal hub. This is an area of huge potential. It has the support of many countries. Our central authorities is going full steam ahead in supporting this IOMED. There will be a huge requirement for manpower and resources in the early days of the IOMED, so I fully support the proposal. You can see this will require ongoing work. We will put more manpower and resources into the work about the IOMED, especially within the DOJ. As another member said, we already have experienced officers on work about the IOMED. Of course, it's best to promote the experienced hands for the posts about the IOMED. Can we keep those people there, let them stay in the same area? In the early days of the IOMED, we will need experienced people. We don't want to make people think we have beginners or amateurs on the job. Keeping experienced officers on work about the IOMED will help boost efficiency and can help us better meet our target. DSJ, please. I thank Mr. Brave Chen for his 2 points. First, on resources and manpower, I thank the member for expressing support for more resources for the work. As I said, the future IOMED will be an intergovernmental body. So even at the International Court of Justice in The Hague or the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, those institutions are in the Netherlands. But the staff there come from all corners of the world. The size of the staff from each country needs to be agreed by the member states. So here in Hong Kong, in the IOMED, we are also subject to a similar cap. But it's important to put our people there because that's an opportunity for our officers. Of course, we welcome the option to put more of our own people at the IOMED because that will help us train up more talent in mediation. If it's a DOJ officer, even when this officer does not work at the future IOMED office, that officer will be working under Dr. James Ding, that is in the International Law Division. So the talent will stay within the Hong Kong government. So no talent will go to waste. Any follow-up questions from Mr. Brave Chen? No. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Our country has given Hong Kong a mission to set up an international legal center. Our country also supports the establishment of the IOMED headquarters in Hong Kong. I'm from the labor sector. I'm also from the civil service union sector. I don't think the secondment arrangement is ideal. There is growing workload for the DOJ, especially in adaptation of laws. I hope the government should move faster in submitting establishment proposals. The work about the IOMED is a very pressing task. It's also very important. Paragraph 16 and 29 of the paper mention permanent and time-limited posts. Beneath the directorate posts, there is non-directorate support. For the supernumerary posts, are those workers non-civil service contract workers? I don't think you can do direct employment. Will there be internal redeployment? Will there be additional manpower? When you have 2 extra directorate officers, will there be massive internal redeployment? How will that be dealt with? How will the non-directorate support be provided? Can the government provide more details? Delivering on the work matters, but we also need more promotion. Some people say we have evil laws in Hong Kong. Some people denigrate our legal system. So we need to promote our rule of law. We need to promote our legal system as fair, open, and impartial. Dr. James Ding. Thank you. Paragraph 29. We're not talking about NCSC staff. These are time-limited posts. The directorate post, that is the APGC, that can be a non-civil service post, but the non-directorate staff will be civil servants. We are working on preparations. We are proposing time-limited posts. Once a long-term plan is in place, we will look at the manpower demand, and then based on need, we will submit a proposal for further permanent posts or time-limited posts, but that's for the future. Mr. Dennis Leung, any follow-up? Are those workers civil servants or contract staff? Dr. James Dane. Paragraph 29. Those are civil servants. But the directorate staff, that is the APGC, the APGC can be a civil servant or a non-civil servant. We may do an open recruitment for a non-civil servant, but we can also find a civil servant to fill the post. We haven't finalized that yet. But the paper says time-limited posts. That should not be a civil service post. What kind of posts are we talking about? Time-limited posts can be filled by civil servants. So, secondment. Got it. Mr. Sun Yi-ten. I fully support their proposal to create these two posts. Our country is working on the Belt and Road Initiative. When issues come up in the collaboration, mediation will play a vital role. Members' questions have been addressed by the DOJ. I get the impression that mediation will be more than about the law. So the recruitment will target not just lawyers. For mediation to happen, you need people who have the facts. People will also need the kind of perspective that will allow them to find solutions that work for different state parties to a mediation. A knowledge of the law matters, but there will be other kinds of knowledge that will be required. Will there be future proposals for extra manpower for the IOMED? How can we build up our capacity in mediation and train up more talent for mediation? Just then, we were saying that for the post for the academy, the APGC post does not have to be a lawyer. We are open to people outside the legal field, because that post will work on the preparations for the academy program development collaboration with future stakeholders. Expertise in non-legal areas also matters for the post about the academy. So for that post, we will consider both lawyers and non-lawyers. Now, coming back to the point about mediation, the member made a good point. Mediation requires not just legal talent. Even in some cases, legal talent may not be the best people to sort things out. It depends on the nature of the dispute. We may need different areas of expertise to resolve the dispute. Let's look at a local dispute, say leakage involving 2 units in a block. The mediator may need to be well versed in property management and construction. That kind of knowledge will be handy. So even in the dispute a private dispute, the mediator may not be a lawyer, it can be an engineer. Or if it's a financial dispute, an accountant can also serve as the mediator. So it all depends on the nature of the dispute. But that's beyond the scope of this proposal. We're trying to set up the headquarters of the future IOMED. As for the future cases to be dealt with by the future IOMED, people who will take part in the IOMED, that will be up to the future IOMED. So let's leave that up to the future IOMED once it is set up. A dispute arises between states. The states can decide what kind of people can serve as mediators.
Any follow-up? No follow-up. Next member, Mr. Benson Look. Good morning, DSJ. I support the relevant proposal. Hong Kong can give full play to the advantage, and it can also enhance the standing of Hong Kong, especially in relation to professional services. So I support the creation of these positions. I have two questions. I've been concerned about the training of talents. One of the missions of the creation of the positions is to set up an expert committee to groom talents and to pave way for the setup of the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy. In the HLSP, the DSJ also gave an answer in relation to this mission. This mission needs to be accomplished within this year. Many people are still smearing Hong Kong. The DSJ mentioned for the expert committee, apart from professional talents, there are also scholars from overseas or from the mainland. I'd like to know the progress, any difficulties you've run into for the scholars from the mainland and from overseas when they are willing to come to Hong Kong. That is a kind of recognition. Can we invite these scholars to tell the good stories of the legal system of Hong Kong in international legal communities? DSJ, I'll ask Dr. James Deng to take these questions. Thank you, member. In relation to the progress of the expert committee, the preparatory work is still underway. We don't have any firmed-up proposal yet. The international landscape is very complex, but we do have collaboration with some patriots. We also have collaboration with international organizations. There are talks, there are presentations, and so on. So we have experts and scholars. In relation to the progress of the setup of the expert committee, we'll provide more information to members when we have such in the future. So rest assured, no problems at all. Under the leadership of the government, I hope we can invite scholars. Based on the reply from the administration, whether mediation or the legal system of Hong Kong, the international community does have confidence. So I hope the DOJ will brief us on the progress regularly. This is also an important element in the recognition of the local legal system. Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Chairman. In relation to the proposal that is to create positions to take forward the setup of the IOMED and the Academy, I support the proposal. In the papers, I can see that the expert committee will help with the setup of the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy. I believe the DSJ is familiar with this situation. In local universities, I am aware of short-term courses that had the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. There are diplomats who came to Hong Kong to take part in short-term courses or training. There were short-term courses on international law. They were successful. In the future, when we have experience of holding these events or training sessions, is it possible to draw reference from these courses in the future? Is it possible to invite global scholars? There are some countries who are on good terms, which are on good terms with our country. They may be willing to send officers to Hong Kong to receive training. Can we take this opportunity to invite legal personnel from these countries? Can we invite them to come to Hong Kong? When we have the academy already set up in Hong Kong, we may be able to provide diverse training courses. That will also help with the taking forward of foreign-related legal affairs or legal talent training. Regarding the expert committee, apart from inviting scholars to join the expert committee, we can also consider inviting these scholars to give lectures in Hong Kong. For example, they can be guest speakers in Hong Kong. There's a certain level of commitment when they need to join the expert committee. Probably we can invite them to come to Hong Kong to be guest speakers. That may be a good first step. DSJ, thank you, Mr. Chow, for the good suggestions. We'll definitely draw reference from the previous experience in relation to the courses to be offered by the Academy. If we can successfully create these positions, that is, after the setup of a dedicated office, this is exactly what the office will be responsible for. Regarding the personnel on the expert committee, I believe there will be eminent scholars from both overseas and from the mainland. After the setup of the office, when these scholars are willing to come to Hong Kong to give lectures, to deliver speeches, it'd be good if we can invite them to come to Hong Kong. All along, we've had close liaison with both our country and overseas. So it's easier for us to invite scholars from the mainland and from overseas jurisdictions to come to Hong Kong. That's why we do have the strength to have a center for legal talent training. This is our strength. For sure, we'll definitely invite eminent scholars from the mainland and from overseas places to invite them to come to Hong Kong to give lectures, to give speeches. That is to give full play to the strength or advantages of Hong Kong. Next, Dr. Kennedy Wong. DSJ, first of all, I give my full support for the creation of these positions. Regarding the IOMED, it's an international organization. when it is set up in Hong Kong, we need to recruit supernumerary positions that have certain expertise. Are there any special language requirements? For example, local legislation is in both Chinese and English. However, there are many commonly used languages when it comes to international law. So I expect that the IOMED can also handle disputes in jurisdictions where English is not the official language. Are there any special additional requirements regarding setting up the Hong Kong International Legal Talents Training Academy? This is very important. We already have 3 law schools in Hong Kong. In these law schools, there are also different research centers. I'd like to ask the administration and the DSJ in the election committee of the legal sector. There are still dozens of voters that belong to community legal organizations. Of course, we have the Law Society of Hong Kong and the Bar Association. They serve solicitors and barristers in Hong Kong, but there are also community organizations. Also, there are international organizations that connect with the world. So I hope that the government will also count these stakeholders in order to take forward the academy. DSJ, I thank Dr. Kennedy Wong for your views. We'll try to converge the stakeholders in Hong Kong so that we can get the job done. In relation to language requirements, as I said, this position holder will be responsible for preparing for the transition of the preparatory office into the IOMED proper. At this stage, there are no special language requirements. For example, for legislative amendments, looking for suitable sites, logistics support, and so on, the position holder will be able to handle these tasks well. However, when it comes to the positions in the IOMED proper, the languages may be more than just Chinese and English. Different representatives of the member states will also come to Hong Kong. The preparatory office already raised the issue. Probably there are more languages other than English. After the setup of the IOMED, the Secretariat will also give support to future operation. For example, any language requirements and so on. They will make decisions and make arrangements on their own. Any follow-up? No follow-up. Next, Ms. Eunice Yong. Thank you, Chairman. I also support the proposal of the DOJ. That is to create one DPGC permanent position and a time-limited supernumerary APGC position. The organization will be on the same par with the International Court of Justice and the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague. They are comparable. They are on the same par. Right now, the IOMED is a mediation organization, whereas those in overseas jurisdictions are courts. I'd like to know the future structure. Will there be judges or retired judges who will sit in the IOMED so that the level will be on the same par with the international courts in overseas jurisdictions. For example, in The Hague, both bodies are courts, International Court of Justice and a Permanent Court of Arbitration. We have the expert committee, but we are not sure about the manpower in the expert committee. I'd like to know who will be stationed in the IOMET in Hong Kong. I'd like to know the level of experts. Will they be comparable to those in overseas jurisdictions? There's a wide scope of dispute resolution, including international disputes or civil disputes or commercial disputes. On publicity in the future, in relation to grooming talents, we have a preparatory office as well as a legal talents training academy. On publicity, how can we better promote IOMED talents from the perspective of the commercial sector? Will there be permanent positions such as permanent mediators who will be stationed in the IOMED? If we adopt the standing practice or the existing practice in Hong Kong, mediators have their full-time work or full-time positions. They only help with mediation or arbitration on a on a part-time basis. After the training, will they be full-time mediators? That is, they will help out in the IOMED as a full-time staffer to promote IOMED in Hong Kong. Would this be the direction? Thank you.
DSJ, please. Ms. Young's questions are close to the heart of many in the community, so who will be sitting in the future IOMED, etc. As I said, the IOMED will not be something that belongs to Hong Kong alone. It will be an international body, just like the court in The Hague. The Hague court does not belong to the Netherlands alone. It's an international body. So coming back to the IOMED, the future experts that will be part of the IOMED, the cases to be dealt with, whether they will be private or business dispute, that will be up to the future IOMED and the state parties. The negotiating parties are negotiating these points. As I said, the negotiations are expected to conclude either late this year or early next year, and then we will get a clearer picture. The Hong Kong SAR or our country does not make the decision alone. It's up to the state parties to the IOMED. Ms. Yong made a good point. The future IOMED will be on a par with the ICC and the PCA in The Hague. It's just that the IOMED will be different in nature from the ICC and the PCA. The Court of Justice is a court of law. The Court of Arbitration is about arbitration, but our IOMED will be about mediation. So I think the member won't have to worry about the kind of experts we will have at the IOMED, because we will find the right kind of expert. Dr. Chow Meng Kong. The future IOMED will be very different from the kind of posts we see with immigration and customs, because with the IOMED, there's a need for ongoing work, so I support the proposal. 2 questions, paragraph 14 of the paper. In the early days of the IOMED's operation and also during the negotiations for the IOMED, there will be complex issues involving diplomatic matters. So what do we mean by the sensitive diplomatic issues? Because I think diplomatic issues should be left to the central authorities. And next one, the D1 post. There are 7 job functions. 3 of them look temporary in nature. They have to do with the early days of the IOMED and all the preparations. There are consulates general in Hong Kong. And then there are all kinds of embassies in Beijing. So will this post reach out to the consulates general in Hong Kong and embassies in Beijing? And can we have more permanent sounding job functions to be included in the job description? Those are my suggestions. Thank you. DSJ. Thank you. Dr. Chow is alert to the wording, so he's wondering whether this is about interactions between countries when we talk about diplomatic issues. Indeed, it's about how one state interacts with another. And indeed, the HKSAR does not deal with diplomatic matters. So when we say we work on diplomatic matters, we work in the capacity as part of the Chinese delegation. We're not acting in the capacity of the HKSAR. Our country will play host to the IOMED. It's up to individual countries to decide whether they want to be part of the IOMED's discussions and negotiations. Other countries find the future IOMED a useful platform, so they voluntarily decide to be part of the negotiations. Again, it's up to those states to decide to take part in the negotiations. Those countries come to Hong Kong regularly to take part in the negotiations. We welcome other countries to be part of the talks. And if they're interested, we will come into contact with those states. Dr. Chow made a good point. We can also tell other countries about the work of the future IOMED, so that those countries learn about the IOMED and more countries will take part in the IOMED. Any follow-up questions? No. So that's all for the questions. 18 members, 17 members spoke on this item. I see all members are in favor of the item. We still have to go through the voting. I now put this item to a vote. Will members in favor of the proposal in EC 2023-24 number 17 please raise their hands? Thank you. With those against this proposal, please raise their hands. I think a majority of the members voted in favor of the item. This item is endorsed. We have to vote on the next question, and that is whether we recommend further discussion at the Finance Committee. That this subcommittee recommends further discussion by the Finance Committee in accordance with paragraph 40A of the Establishment Subcommittee. I put this question to a vote, that this subcommittee recommends further discussion by the Finance Committee of the proposal in paper EC 2023-24 number 17, which has been endorsed by this subcommittee. A reminder to members, if this question is endorsed, that means this subcommittee recommends further discussion by the FC of this paper. If this question is negative, that means this subcommittee does not recommend further discussion by the FC of this proposal. Will those in favor of this proposal please raise their hands? Will those against this question please raise their hands? I think the majority of members voted against this question. This question is negative. The subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of the proposal in EC bracket 2023-24 number 17. That concludes the meeting today. The next meeting will take place on May 8th, that's Wednesday, from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Thank you.